Hi, our group is presenting a visual report on an emergency response. The flooding due to Cyclone Megan in Borroloola community, Northern Territory, in March 2024. The consequence of flooding in Borroloola was a result of the aftermath of Tropical Cyclone Megan, which was a natural disaster arguably brought upon by climate change. On the afternoon of 21st, flood peak of the MacArthur River hit 18 meters, considered an extreme record. The flooding lasted from the 16th to the 22nd, although there were accounts of pre-cyclone flooding and the aftermath effects were quite disastrous. These are some first-hand recollections and news reports to fairly understand the extent of the devastation caused by the disaster and the experience of the people living there. As a result of the rising floodwaters yesterday, the internal roads between the MacArthur River Mine village operational areas was cut off, and our site has also been affected by a Northern Territory-wide etc. outage. Wednesday, old people were waiting at the airport gate, rain pouring down, no shelter there. You'd think they would have had portable tents, but nothing. Old people had a rag over their head standing up, or some of the recollection by the residents of Borroloola. A researcher with the Monash University, been working with the Borroloola residents, had learned that the emergency evacuation orders have been poorly planned and disorganized, and hence distressing for the community. The workers in the mines and people around the area were stranded and had to stay the night in an operational building in the area.
Now, let's take a look at the emergency frameworks linked with the several governmental/humanitarian organizations that aided in this emergency scenario. The ADF, which stands for the Australian Defence Force, airlifted the residents of Borroloola to the Garawa camp and Darwin. The Roper Gulf Regional Council staff worked together with the MacArthur River Mine Community Benefits Trust to transport food sources to the camps where the Borroloola residents temporarily settled. In terms of communication, it was temporarily stopped, but both Telstra, which is a phone service, and Glencore, which is a mining company, teamed up to restore phone coverage. 102 people were flown to Darwin from Borroloola on the 20th Wednesday evening as part of a partial evacuation of the remote community in which they were provided with food, water, and temporary shelter. The community of approximately 800 people required more help and expected more organized evacuation/rescue operations and services. Therefore, despite the successful efforts, there were still several issues that occurred.
While most of the framework set up helped to safely evacuate some residents of Borroloola, there were several that experienced issues. The points of failure during the evacuation can be broken down into few major points. Major road and access points were cut off in the floods. In a remote area, these access points were crucial for many reasons. There was limited food supply for several stranded residents. Inadequate supplies to protect oneself from the cold weather resulted in several health issues. There were also major communication issues. Miscommunication among service providers that delayed the evacuation services, and the lack of communication between separated family members heightened anxiety due to the lack of support in an uncertain time. All these factors affected the elderly and people with chronic health issues much more.
For more context on Borroloola, let's take a deeper dive into the climate and terrain. Based on a study of Borroloola's climate from 2012 to 2021, December is the hottest month with an average temperature of 32 degrees Celsius, while July is the coldest at 19 degrees Celsius. The month with the highest rainfall is January, averaging 116.9 millimeters, and the windiest month is June, with wind speeds averaging 35 kilometers per hour. Additionally, the annual precipitation is approximately 418.2 millimeters. Although they have been experiencing sporadic flooding, it has not been extreme. Floods are becoming more frequent, but we must not lose sight of how horrific each and every one is for our people caught up in them, as stated by a Borroloola resident to National Indigenous Times. In emergency situations in Borroloola, flooding is caused by low air pressure being heated by the sun. This can lead to significant consequences such as loss of food sources, disruption of communication, and property damage. Residents have experienced destruction and falling of trees, loss of homes for both people and animals, and changes to landscape and its accessibility to roads. In relation to terrain, Borroloola could be described as flat plains with approximately 125 meters of coastal hilly upcrops. Although the terrain has changed over time due to the natural disasters, and hence the frameworks that exist are no longer helping the community. Regarding Borroloola's drainage and water system, the Northern Territory government asserts that the town has a sufficient groundwater supply, providing high-quality water supported by a fully reticulated water system. Due to mining activities, unfortunately, this has impacted the quality of the water over the course of time and furthermore has significantly altered the terrain. Borroloola may be accessed via the Carpinteria Highway, which is a sealed all-weather single-lane road. It is a 7 hours drive from Katherine. It is also located on the Savannah Way, which links Cairns in northern Queensland and Broome in Western Australia. The road east is an unsealed road and can be subject to closures in the wet season. The Tablelands Highway also links Tennant Creek. Borroloola may also be accessed via chartered small aircraft. It is 2 kilometers from the Borroloola airstrip to the town centre and a short walk to the council office. There is a barge landing 40 kilometers from Borroloola, which is functional only when weather conditions are suitable. In terms of traffic flow, the transport and civil services of the Department of Infrastructure, Planning and Logistics continuously improve the traffic system by monitoring road traffic, evaluating projects through traffic flow data, and enhancing the road network. Sunlight exposure is beneficial to the community's efficiency, emphasizing the need for solar panels. However, protection from rain and wind remains a significant challenge as the community must endure heavy rainfall and strong winds, which can lead to flash flooding and other severe consequences.
The Aboriginal people of Australia have a rich and diverse culture that has evolved over thousands of years. They are known for their deep connection to the land. This connection is often referred to as being on country in Australia. The Aboriginal people have developed a variety of regional cultures and languages and have invented artistic and religious traditions. The Aboriginal communities are characterized by their holistic life approach, which is defined by connections to family, community, and country. Their values passed down through generations emphasize things like self-control, courage, and taking care of each other. They believe in a strong sense of community and respect for the natural world, especially water. Now, with the environment facing challenges in Northern Australia, it's more important than ever to listen to Indigenous voices and their deep understanding of the land. Their perspectives need to be part of any decisions about how we use and protect our natural resources, especially water. Borroloola is a remote community in this area. It lies on the traditional country of the Yuktha people, but it's also home to another 4 different tribes too. The Borroloola community has been proactive in keeping their culture and heritage alive while providing jobs for community members, such as setting up a trial ecotourism business and cultural program. The other important things to know and notice is kinship. Kinship is a fundamental aspect of the Borroloola's community social structure and cultural identity. The community is home to 5 tribes. Each of them has its own language, traditions, and kinship systems, which play a crucial role in defining social relationships and responsibilities within the community. The Yuktha people, for instance, have a complex kinship system that influence their interactions and relationships. Understanding the kinship structure is essential to discovering how people relate to each other in communities like Borroloola. Our design approach is all about respecting the local environment and the people who live there. It's not about changing the landscape or imposing modern ideas. We want to work with what's already there, like using the natural flow of the waterways to guide our design. We are also thinking about the local cultures and traditions. For example, we can use elements from Aboriginal totems to create warning signs that everyone understands. It's important to remember that different cultures have different ways of seeing the world. We need to understand the specific needs and perspectives of the 5 tribes to make sure our design works for everyone, as well building big water treatment plants or using modern methods for soil control might not be the best approach here. So, we need to consider the unique challenges and find solutions that fit the local context. Our final design will be different from a typical modern project. It will be about more than just functionality. It will be about spirituality, kinship, and the deep connection to nature that's so important to Aboriginal people.
The two-way learning is a great first step in designing for the community. Learning on Country is a program rooted in sharing of knowledge and experience of living and working together through two-way learning. The Learning on Country program benefits students by helping them engage with their own culture and identity, building a stronger connection to the land. It encourages and engages the young generation to engage with their own culture, tradition, and language. Activities such as women's camps, men's camps, family fun days, weekly classroom activities, local excursions, bush tucker collection, art, traditional cooking, song and dance, kinship mapping, identity ceremonies, and more helps the community get involved with useful skills and keep the culture alive. This project is thriving as it works with the community, since kinship is one of the most important parts of spiritual values developed by Indigenous people. Here are some pictures in Malandaree Festival, which means freshwater spring in the traditional language of Borroloola. 2023 marked the 10-year anniversary of the Malandaree Festival, and the strong and dedicated creative direction of Martin Timothy. The festival was started with hopes to instill traditional knowledge in the young and engage the whole community in the arts, dance, music, and more.
The preservation, revitalization, and the promotion of the local languages is the foundation of the festival's program content, as well as remembering the stories from the past of connection to country and to culture. The audience are invited to sit and the festoon lights to watch and listen to the Dreamtime stories being reenacted and kept alive by future storytellers. A cultural platform of celebration at the festival ties the community and brings them together. Such a platform could be crucial to spread helpful information in a creative way. And here are some useful precedents designed for flooding emergency. First, Street Lamp Protector, which is a Red Dot Award winner. It's an industrial conceptual design for the tsunami. It can shield 5 to 6 people when there is a flooding. It can protect them from floating objects. Also, it provides a function of first aid and the emergency call. Also, in architectural design area, buildings designed for emergency like flooding are requested to be with snap-on joint systems, retractable, lightweight, and waterproofing. Like Fold and Float is an unwheels prototype floating emergency structure in Istanbul. It's a foldable, floating structure that does not need to be built on the land, and the structure can be used by earthquake and flood victims even for 1 year after a disaster. Finally, in the graphic design area, Queensland local government have worked with the Office of Architects to develop design guidance for flood resilient homes in the wake of the floods in Queensland to get homeowners to improve their homes and become more resilient to floods. Given that it was not easy to alter the building in Borroloola, it could also add emergency self-help guidelines for residents. The graphic design for Borroloola area could incorporate local indigenous art forms like that showed in the last page. We can use their traditional arts style or warolonku to develop graphic design like warning sign or pamphlets which can satisfy indigenous people. Also, raise their awareness and abilities of responding to emergencies. So in our design, adapting to local conditions is a core design concept. For example, environmental design will not change geographical landscape or carry out some modern innovation. All the design should be based on the respect.
There are several challenges that they face within the flood. The first one is keeping everyone safe during evacuation. During the flood, many elders and people with disabilities were separated from their families and carers. This is dangerous because they need their loved ones to help them get the right care and medicine. So we need to design shelters and facilities that are specifically designed for elders, people with disabilities, and those with medical needs. These places should be easy to get to and have everything they need to stay safe and comfortable during an emergency. The second one is protecting homes and lives. Many homes were flooded, forcing people to leave their homes, so We need to build homes that can withstand floods, like elevated buildings with strong foundations. We also need to improve draining systems and create clear evacuation routes so people can get to safety quickly. The third one is staying connected during emergency. People couldn't get important information from the authorities because of power outages and communication breakdowns. So we need to make sure everyone has access to reliable communication systems even during emergencies. We can do this by using backup power sources and making sure everyone knows where to go for information. And the other one is meeting everyone's needs during emergencies. There weren't enough emergency shelters and people had to stay in crowded and uncomfortable conditions. Then we need to create emergency shelters that are designed with the specific needs of the Borroloola community in mind. We should work with local leaders to make sure the shelters are culturally appropriate and respectful. And the end of that is preparing for the future. The Borroloola community knows that extreme weather events are becoming more common because of the climate change, and this happening, it will be repeated again and again. So we need to design buildings and infrastructure that can withstand extreme weather. We should use renewable energy sources, water-saving measures, and materials that are strong and durable. We also need to create early warning systems and evacuation plans that take into account the unique challenges of the region. In the end, I must mention that engaging with the community throughout the design process is crucial to be sure that their needs and values are respected and incorporated, because it helps to design not only functional and safe but also culturally appropriate and meaningful to the inhabitants of Borroloola.
Thank you for listening.